If I had just one word to describe Great Sand Dunes National Park in Colorado, the word underrated would be a perfect descriptor. Combine a visit to Great Sand Dunes with a trip to Zapata Falls directly to the south of the national park, and now you've got a criminally underrated combo of destinations. I mean, seriously, I just visited Great Sand Dunes National Park in mid-December of 2025, and there was no one there. Not that I mind that, of course. In fact, I very much enjoyed walking through the empty campground and seeing the wonderful birds that call this park home. Having now visited Great Sand Dunes National Park twice, once in December and once in September, I have a pretty good idea of what birds someone can expect to see when they visit this remarkable location. Let's take a look at the feathered stars of the show that birders can expect when visiting Great Sand Dunes National Park. I am going to be birding at Great Sand Dunes National Park in Colorado, but before I go there, I am at Zapata Falls. It's just south of Great Sand Dunes National Park. I was here a few years ago. I had a lot of fun. Amazing to see the waterfall. The birds were decent, not too speciose, but we're going to see what we can find this time around. Let's go birding. Birders really miss out on a tremendous opportunity if they visit Great Sand Dunes National Park without making the very brief detour to Zapata Falls. This is my favorite waterfall that I've ever visited at this point in my life, and while the views here are simply tremendous, the birds can be very rewarding for those who take the time to seek them out. Of course, the tiny but mighty mountain chickadee is abundant in the coniferous habitat flanking the trails around Zapata Falls. I love the black stripe that trails behind the eyes of these chatty songbirds. Seeing common ravens is a frequent occurrence here. These brilliant birds roam the landscape searching for sustenance that they find in the form of roadkill, seeds or berries, or food scraps left behind by careless tourists. I thought I was going to leave Zapata Falls with minimal bird footage, but a group of songbirds foraging along the roadside on the way out caught me by surprise. Upon closer inspection, these were rosy finches, birds that I desperately wanted to see on this trip, but I didn't expect it to be this easy. As I watched this delightful group of rosy finches, it quickly became clear that this flock contained two rosy finch species. There were a few gray-crowned rosy finches in the mix, but most of the birds were brown-capped rosy finches. Life birds for me. The differences between these rosy finch species are subtle, but here is a gray-crowned rosy finch with several brown-capped rosy finches. Notice the darker body and entirely gray head of the gray-crowned rosy finch compared to the more nondescript brown-capped rosy finches. Before long, these songbirds took to the roadside where they pecked at grit and whatever seeds they could find among the gravelly substrate. Seeing these rosy finches right outside my vehicle was an incredible experience. My day was off to a terrific start, now to head to Great Sand Dunes National Park. I spent about 2 hours birding at Zapata Falls. It was absolutely gorgeous. I didn't get a ton of birds, only 8 species, but right at the end of my checklist, I got a flock of rosy finches. That was super exciting. They were feeding right along the roadside next to me, so that was incredible. Now I am at Great Sand Dunes National Park, and we're going to see what birds we can find here on this incredible landscape. The hiking opportunities at Great Sand Dunes National Park are certainly more limited than many national parks, but plenty of enjoyable treks exist in this park for those with a strong sense of adventure. As for me, I knew exactly where to start my birding adventure at Great Sand Dunes National Park. The Sentinels of Pinyon Flats Campground greeted me as I walked past the gate that prevents vehicles from accessing this hotspot this time of year. The campground is an exceptionally reliable place to view these dazzling pinyon jays, and I look forward to seeing them every time I visit this national park. After the pinyon jays flew off, I followed a high-pitched call note and located a long-tailed songbird with a white eye ring atop a bare tree. The lighting from this angle was poor, but when I repositioned and saw the bird in better light, I could clearly see that this was a Townsend's solitaire. These songbirds are easy to overlook, but they thrive here at Great Sand Dunes National Park, being one of the most common year-round residents. Much like their American robin cousins, Townsend solitaires love to eat fruit during the winter. I then encountered numerous mountain chickadees as I walked through the campground, with the first hopping along the ground in search of seeds. The next mountain chickadee provided show-stopping views. Probably the best views I've ever gotten of this species. Wow! After a productive time in the campground, I walked for a few miles on the sand ramp trail that begins at the northern end of the campground. I've gotta say, it was a lot of fun birding among the snow that had been spared from melting thanks to the abundant trees providing shade along the trail. I spotted a silhouette of a medium-sized bird perched in a bare tree during my hike along the sand ramp trail. Do you know what this bird is? Well, this bird was a Woodhouse's scrub jay. These pinyon jay cousins are common at Great Sand Dunes National Park, as I encountered several here during my first visit. What I didn't know was that this Woodhouse's scrub jay was a beast. Nothing would stand between this bird and a meal, as it flipped rocks out of its way as it searched for pinyon seeds. At one point, it even picked up a rock in its bill and threw it aside. Very impressive. I again encountered a mountain chickadee while birding along this trail. As you can tell, this petite species may be the most common bird at Great Sand Dunes National Park. I was surprised by how many mountain chickadees I saw foraging on the ground. The black-capped chickadees I have back home don't spend nearly as much time on the ground. Can someone who regularly sees mountain chickadees tell me if this is common behavior for them? I found yet another Townsend solitaire further down the trail. Had I not spotted this thrush as it flew into this juniper tree, I could have easily missed it among the branches. One of the many nice things about this species is that they sit still for longer than many other songbirds. They're often content to stay put for several minutes at a time, and that's exactly what this bird did, resting in the cover of the tree and taking a few moments to clean up its bill along a branch. I've had a fantastic afternoon at Great Sand Dunes National Park. I've gotten so many great birds. I didn't know what to expect this time of year, being December. I've seen a lot of eBird checklists from here in this time of year, and they're not super productive, just not a ton of birds around, but I've seen some awesome birds. I've gotten pinyon jay and Woodhouse's scrub jay. Excellent looks at both of those. I've encountered some nice feeding flocks containing mountain chickadees, red-breasted nuthatches, Townsend solitaires, and more. It's been really fantastic. The birds have been very cooperative. I have had a blast here at Great Sand Dunes National Park. Determined to accurately survey the birds of Great Sand Dunes National Park, I ventured out into the main attraction of the park. The climb up the sand dunes was grueling, but the worst part was, there were absolutely no birds in sight. Fortunately, the views at the top made it all worthwhile. Alas, I still hadn't seen any birds on the sand dunes, so I had no choice but to camp overnight among the dunes and catch the birds by surprise first thing in the morning. When I awoke the following day, the birds continued to elude me. They must have all been buried in the sand in a collective effort to avoid me. Oh well, I decided to cut my losses and head out, but as I neared the parking lot, a wonderful sight awaited me. A bird! And not just any bird, it was a common raven that was taking in the stunning views of the sunrise over the mountains at Great Sand Dunes National Park. Common ravens frequent the parking lot adjacent to the sand dunes, as there are plenty of easy meals for them around here. In fact, when this raven flew off at the end of my observation, it made a beeline right for the parking lot to find breakfast. Well, everyone, I camped out on the dune ridge overnight for the strict purpose of seeing what birds could be found. It definitely had nothing to do with how absolutely gorgeous it is when you get to the top of the dunes at the Great Sand Dunes National Park. Anyway, I am reporting that there were no birds to be seen out on the dunes. You could hear a common raven flying over every now and then. That was it. It's just not a hospitable environment for birds, so if you want birds at Great Sand Dunes National Park, check out the campground or some of the other trails here. That's going to be a wrap for this worldwide birder adventure. Now, I would love to know before I go, have any of you been to Great Sand Dunes National Park? And if so, what was the best bird that you got to see here? Don't forget to like and subscribe for more worldwide birder journeys, and I will catch you all on my next worldwide birder adventure.